That's anything. It's the greatest find yet. Nothing compares to it.
But it's definitely something you should hear.
This is The Real Deal with Larry Lawton.
Welcome to The Real Deal with me, Larry Lawton. I have a great guest with me today on this great Monday. I got Hector Bravo, who's got a podcast out there called Hector Bravo, That Prison Guard. It's not actually a podcast, it's a YouTube channel he started. And we're going to have Hector on here right after I open this opening, everybody. So anyway, I hope you had a great weekend. I've been as busy can be, which is pretty normal for me. We're doing so much. I was just down at the cigar event, guys, and it was amazing. Down in the Hollywood Casino, it was called the Big Smoke for meets Whiskey Fest in the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, and we met so many people, and we did so much business down there and connections and stuff. Because the cigars are going crazy everywhere. They're premium cigars, and you can get them just at crookeddiamondcigar.com or go to your local shops. They're buying them up now, and you can look on the video itself, and you'll check it out there. It's pretty cool. So check it out, everybody. You'll love it. The crookeddiamondcigar.com. Check the book out, Gangster Redemption. That's going good. Always does. And you know what it is? It's people. Listen, people like to hear the truth. They like to hear real deal. They don't want to hear bullshit. They don't want to hear, somebody just sugarcoating shit. And that's why I got Hector. I'll tell you guys how I met Hector. I met Hector. My assistant, Nick, got an email, and I like it. He knows what I like. And he's a former prison guard for 16 years. He went the ranks from guard to sergeant to lieutenant. So he was what we used to call, administration, and he was the grunt guys, that dealt with the guys. So we're going to talk to him a lot about that. He also was in the military, and I want to thank him for his service there. I'm a retired military myself. Everybody knows I support things like that. I might not support what we're doing, but I always support the troops, and I support the people who are out there defending us. Hector, welcome to the show.
What's up, Larry? Thank you for having me, man.
Hector, I read a little about you, and listen, you're putting out some content, which is, what everybody needs, I think. And, you tell it like it is. You're not scared to call out some bullshit that you saw during the years, and I get a lot of that, and I want to get into some of that stuff with you. So, first of all, tell everybody about yourself, Hector, and give a quick bio for yourself.
Cool. Yeah, the name's Hector Bravo. Enlisted in the Army at the age of 17. Took off to Iraq in the year 2004. I was in Iraq from 2004 to 2005. As a grunt in the Army, saw a lot of combat, 13 months worth. And then I came out, partied extremely hard, got into some trouble, and then ultimately joined the career field of California Department of Corrections, where I started in 2006. I did that for 16 years. I worked at two different prisons. One was Centinela State Prison, which is your medium to high security, level 4 GP, which is your typical gang members, violence. And then about halfway through my career, I ended up promoting to another prison where it was just complete opposite, more like a psych ward, more like a mentally unstable prison.
Wow.
And so
you saw a lot. You saw a lot of stuff, though, Hector. I mean, obviously, being in there 16 years, and I was in the prison system for 12 years, and I was in max security. I was in Atlanta. I'm sure you heard of USP Atlanta.
Yeah, I did. I don't know too much about the feds. I don't know much about the feds because I was in state, but yeah, I totally get it.
Yeah, at the time, Atlanta was known as the worst prison in the country, state or fed, and now it's actually ADX Colorado. But of course, we got California's got Pelican Bay, New York's got Attica, a couple, a lot of state prisons. Florida has Florida State Prison, where they have Old Sparky, and they still have that. But, we're going to get into first of all, how you got into corrections, and that's technically, I guess, a law enforcement career. But you were a fuck up. I mean, you had your share of partying and thing and everything. Did you ever get arrested or in trouble for doing any of that?
Yeah. Yeah, I did actually. I got arrested a couple months prior to my written examination for the Department of Corrections. Wild, came back from Iraq wild, suffering from PTSD, alcoholism, untreated PTSD, untreated alcoholism, and landed myself in jail for a week.
And the Department of Corrections took you. I'm glad they did. Don't get me wrong. I think they should. I think they good. I think everything should be built on second chances to begin with. But so tell me how you still like. Did you tell them that you were arrested? Did you say, "Listen, I got arrested. I was a DUI or whatever. You know, I was fighting in a bar. I don't know. What was the cause of the arrest?"
Yeah, it was a beer run. Believe it or not, it was a beer run, but that lasted a week, man. It lasted a week because it was through the weekend and through some holidays. So I didn't get kicked out till like 7 days after. Yeah, I definitely had to disclose it to the background investigator because they're gonna look regardless. They're gonna pull up police reports, high school stuff. They go back pretty far, and you can't necessarily get in trouble for like it's better you have to put it out there, or else it's considered omitting facts.
Right.
So yeah, I put it out there, man, and he took a chance on me.
And did you think they were going to kick you out and not let you in? I mean, you just got to. How long did you do in the military?
I did 3 years. My contract was 3 years.
And you went over to Iraq. You saw some action. How old are you, Hector?
Right now I'm 38, so I,
Wow.
I hit it kind of young. Yeah.
Yeah, you are young. I'm getting old in this world, man. But I love to see young guys who did their time, understands mistakes. I'm all for the guy that did had his fuck ups, had whatever, and because that's the guy you wanna, because he realized he treats other people like humans because he's been through some shit. You know, I
Correct.
I don't go and talk to these guys that never did a thing wrong. They're the kids that used to steal their lunch money, and before you know it, now they got a badge and a gun or the keys we used
Right.
to call it, and before you know it, they're causing more problems than they're actually trying to solve. And I'm
That's
sure
true.
you saw that as a lieutenant. First of all, sergeant, then a lieutenant. But we're going to get into that career. But I'm trying to catch back to your early career because I want people to know where you're at and check out some of your content. It's pretty good. It's Hector Bravo. It's that prison guard. It's a YouTube channel. He just started it and he's really working hard. And I'll tell you what, he understands how it is, but he tells it like it is, everybody. When I see anybody like that willing to put their shit on the line, and I say that by all of our bad parts too. None of us are perfect, Hector. We all know that. And
Yeah.
it's the people who think that, I'm gonna, didn't make a mistake, or you should have did this, you should have did that. Listen, man, walk in a man's shoes before you can judge him. And I talk about that a lot. And I speak to a lot of prison guards, and I speak to a lot of ex-cons, and I don't have as many on because a lot of them are just saying, "Nah, I really don't want to talk about it." And I get that. I do get that. I get that PTSD. I have severe PTSD. I'm a disabled vet. I'm actually 90% disabled out of the VA. And matter of fact, I got to go back and get my 100%. But as far as you, are you with the VA too?
Yeah, I am. I actually got raised at 100, so that kind of helped out my decision on leaving.
Good for you. Good for you. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've been retired since shit, almost when you were born. Well, before you were born. Well, I got retired in '86. When were
Born
you?
in 84, man, August.
And I was retired in '86. Holy fuck! But so you went in young too, then actually.
Yeah, I enlisted in the army at the age of 17. Had the parents sign the permission slip, the waiver.
Wow, same as me, Hector. I went in at 17.
Yeah.
And, and looking back, it was probably a good decision. Obviously, you've seen some shit, and you can't look at it now and say it was a good decision. But I'll bet you grew up pretty quick. But people don't get this, and I talk about this a lot on my show. I can't stand when America sends young kids at your age, 19, 20, whatever the fuck it is, into battle. You got to kill people. You got to do some fucking crazy shit and expect them not to fucking be fucked up when they get back. The brain doesn't even develop on a man until about 25, fully developed. And on a female, it's approximately 23. That's not my numbers. That's psych numbers. But then they expect you to fucking handle all this shit, come back and, he has trouble. He should fucking handle it. He should go here. He don't even know where to fucking go. No less, that he needs help, in that regard. And we handle it our own way, whether it's drinking and partying and doing stuff of that nature. Do you have battle buddies that you stay in contact with and stuff of that nature?
Yeah, I do. I still got my brothers that I keep in contact with. And you hit the nail right on the head about the human brain doesn't stop developing till 25, 26 years old. Well, up until 25, I had already learned how to kill people, learned how to not get killed, put a bunch of alcohol and drugs into my system as you could possibly imagine. So I was pretty messed up when it came to seeking the treatment portion. But I hear you.
Yeah, listen. The key now, though, Hector. Obviously, first of all, there's a couple impressive things that blew me away. You lasted 16 years in the Department of Corrections. Uh, I get so many officials, whether it's high-ranking officials or I've even had wardens call and say, I did this much time, and I just eventually it ate me up. I had to get out. I saw, excuse me, I saw the bullshit. I saw the, oh wow, I saw the bullshit. I saw the crap that's going on in there. And you said it there. Politics is what really opened my eyes. What you said. And what do you mean by your politics? Obviously, is it like there's lifers or there's guys that don't want to help or rehabilitate or they just play the game? What did you mean when you said there's too much politics in there?
Well, politics is like like agendas. In a perfect world, or even not even a perfect world, the ideal prison setting should be everybody goes to work, everybody stays in their lane for the most part, focuses on what their job functions are and duties, and we protect the public, right? We protect the inmates from hurting themselves and hurting us. We prevent them from escaping, and at the same time, since California put the rehabilitation mission on, then let's all go for it. I mean, that's what the mission was. But when I say politics, man, you got agendas, you got vendettas, you got personal grudges from the top, from the highest of the top. I seen it when I was a lieutenant, and they are basically sabotaging the department, sabotaging it in order to make a point, to burn somebody, to get back at somebody. I couldn't stomach it.
Wow. So, you're talking about like where officials know what to do, but they do the wrong thing, so it fails on purpose, so they can blame somebody and look good themselves, or try to make a change that they want. Is what you really
everything you just said, with the exception of they actually do not know what they're doing. They don't know what they're doing, and in order to take off the spotlight on them, the incompetence on them, they do what you just said. They start smutting other people up. They start sabotaging people and be like, oh, look at that person messing up. But We're just following the dumb orders that came down the line.
And Hector, do you think that comes from the warden or even higher than the warden?
Higher, man. I'm starting to think at the official level, up at the state, higher, because everybody's following suit. Everybody's bending the knee, so to say. Whatever their personal gain is. That's another thing, personal gain. I never went to work for personal gain. I went to perform a duty. And I've seen people sell their souls, just they're in it for themselves. They want to get that rank. A lot of people in their minds believe that rank equals power. And in some cases it does, but ultimately, things come out like this.
Well, what you're saying is so true. Obviously, it does to a degree, but ultimately, people power means how you treat people down the line is it's gonna come back to haunt you. I don't care who you are. I always treated people the way I want to be treated. I mean, I went the hard route in the Bureau of Prisons because listen, I got smart. I used to fight, and I know I couldn't beat them physically, obviously. And then I ended up getting smarter and got my degree in law and everything. And then I started really creating waves. And that's what really got me to the point where I had a lieutenant come up to me once and say, "Well, I know all about you." She goes, I've been in the hole at this point, near fucking a year and a half or something at that point. And I said, listen, I don't give a fuck what you do. I don't give a fuck, LT. You know me already. If you know my jacket, I've been in this fucking hole fucking 10 years. I don't give a fuck. My date's coming up. I'll live in that motherfucker, but I'm not going to stop. She goes, hold on. This is the third prison. She goes, and I know. And I read where there's some people in your jacket who said you got a lot of respect because your word means something. I said, listen to me. You treat me the way I should be treated, I will treat. And that doesn't mean I know I got to listen to you. What do you think? We're an idiot? I'm a fucking inmate. You're a fucking lieutenant or a guard. I know I got to listen to you. It's not about that. But when you treat a person like a scumbag, what do you think he's going to do? I mean, it's just you have to you have to give respect to get respect. I don't give a fuck what's on your shoulder or on your band or your fucking ID card. I don't give a fuck. And it comes down to it. This is a great story, Hector. I was with a guard named Perry. He since died. He was really a good dude. He ran the kitchen. He was a hostage during Atlanta when Atlanta was taken over by the Cubans. You probably heard of that. In 1987, the Cubans took over Atlanta Penitentiary for, I think, 8 days. Literally took the fucking place over. They were going to actually they let out of a cell a guy named Silverstein, if you heard of him. He was one of the longest serving inmates in the whole, over 30 years. He killed a lieutenant, killed and a guard, and he killed a Cadillac from the Black Panthers. I don't know how much you know about the old history. So anyway, they had him, and they took over the penitentiary. I mean, you know that. Listen, inmates can take over a penitentiary anytime they want. We all know that. I'm sure you guys know that as well. But what happened was the guard used this guy Perry, and I worked for him in the kitchen. He told me, he goes, Larry, I give a class to these new guards. I tell them, listen to me. There's no reason you should treat these people that you wouldn't treat someone in your family who got arrested, someone in your family or that got arrested. He goes, and here's why. He goes, listen, you might fuck with these inmates, and they're gonna never forget it, never. And when the tides changed, you're in trouble. And sure enough, he says, but when you treat them with respect, they'll remember that as well. And they took over the prison, and they took this one guard, and they assaulted the guard's wife and him sexually and everything right in front of him because they hated him, because he forgot who he fucked with. They fuck with so many people, they forget who they fuck with. And then when the tide changed, years later, whatever it was, it all came back to haunt him. And I heard it was some serious crazy shit. And he said with him, they actually, when they broke into the commissary and they broke in everything and they took over the whole prison, they gave him stuff and they protected him from other prisoners, that were bent to just destroy and do something. Because we know there's crazy people in there. I mean, nobody's going to sit here and say, oh, there's a bunch of fucking choir boys in there. There's not. I lived with them. I was in maximum security prisons my time. So I know what it's like. But I look at guards, and I always looked at them. And to this day, I'm friends with a bunch of them. I mean, guys who treated me with respect. There's the guy Massey up in Georgia. There's a guy named Hoyle. These guys I talk to, literally do business with them now. And they always said, Lawton, we respected you. You respected us. You don't think that I had to go into the cell when they said, all right, lockdown, or whatever the fuck it is? Of course I did, Yeah. But you get people who get power hungry is where I see it. And that power goes right to their head. And before you know it, they're a danger to the guards around them, too. And you know that. I'm sure you gave classes on that, Hector.
Extremely dangerous, man. The predicaments, we were quelling. That's another thing is I couldn't even come to work to do my job. I was busy putting out their fires, and I couldn't even get to my job. And all this is going on. It's not just me, the troops too, the sergeants, the officers. We're working hard behind the scenes, and then it's just constant, relentless. I did hear about that Atlanta hostage situation because I actually got certified as a hostage negotiator for our crisis response team, and that's one of the subjects we went over. But it's interesting to hear that they actually took care of that individual.
Yeah,
I'm not surprised, but it's interesting.
It was, and it was interesting because that was over the Cuban. They weren't getting any hearings. All they wanted was a fucking hearing. They came here from the Marielitos, they called them, and eventually you can only push a human being so far, and I don't care who he is. And obviously, I've seen so much death and so much destruction, and I wonder, did you know? I'll give you a little number. I don't know if you knew this, Hector. Guards have one of the highest suicide rates out of a profession out there. I don't know what one. I think there's one other profession, but guards have a very high suicide rate. And it goes to one, they always hang out with the people who they were working with. So it's like your never-ending battle of being in that kind of environment. And also, there's no way, I'm sure you, Hector, have known people in prison that you said, what the fuck, they don't belong here. They just don't belong here. Whether it's in this level of a prison, whether it's what they did, and you looked at their jacket and you said, wow, what the fuck is he doing here? and then they may be getting abused or something of that nature, and you know it. It's got to tear you down, Hector. I always try to ask guards, how do you deal with that?
One of the things, well, how do I deal with that at that time was just numbing myself, right? Numbing myself, taking, they teach us at the academy, empathy versus sympathy. So that's like a defensive mechanism or just putting up that wall, like kind of professional versus personal thoughts or opinions. One of the things that always struck me, man, even coming into the department at the age of 22, that's a young age. There was young inmate lifers, LWOP, life without parole. And that always struck me. That always stood out. And I looked, man, like this dude never got the chance. Like this, probably never even been with a woman. Some of them have not been with a woman. They're 18, 19, 20 years old. And it's like, damn. Another thing that used to strike me was when you would have individuals on there doing a short bid, maybe 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, for something as simple as a DUI. Then they get handed a weapon, a shank, and told, hey, you're going to go on a mission with this guy. You guys are going to stab this individual. And they would stab him. And whether they meant it or not, the individual would die. And now they just got hit with a murder charge. That always stood out to me.
I tell people during my program, which I have a program, I think you know, Hector, and what I talk about young people is you can go in there for either get killed yourself or, like you said, get killed for, sitting in the wrong seats in the kitchen or wherever you're at, or have to do something because you get hooked on drugs and whatever it is in there because there's more drugs in prison or on the streets. And they don't get that. They don't know what I mean by, man, you just had to do it because you had to fit in. You didn't want to get raped anymore or whatever the hell's going on, and you needed protection. And they say, listen, you got to go here, like you said. And I've seen it. And I used to. That's one of the reasons when I got out, Hector, I actually developed a program to try to understand it. It's not like what you see on TV. It's not cool in there. It's the worst fucking place on the planet. They talk about rehabilitation. They don't give a fuck. And it's amazing how I saw that actually happen because there are ways to do things that are so easy and cost effective and it wouldn't cost them money. And they could do things to treat a person like a human. And I don't know how much you got into the prison research stuff. I do a lot of stuff with prisons from overseas, whether it's Sweden or Norway, Germany, and they are doing it right. And they have lower recidivism rates. They have a lower crime rate. And so the citizens are protected more. They are saving money towards the system. But I don't know if America wants to save that money. I really don't. I think it is a part of it that, there's so much fucking bullshit that I think money is a big part of what's going on in the system itself. I'm sure you could touch on that a little.
Yeah, it's politics. Like I said, I was a lieutenant, so I had not only was I a lieutenant, there was the positions that I got access to. The position, I was a public information officer, meaning I was the warden's right-hand man at one time. I go out and speak in front of the camera when something major happens. I never got that opportunity, but that was the job, the role. And they're actually trying to implement the Norway program here in the California Department of Correction. But like I said, man, the higher up, Sacramento, that's where the headquarters is at.
Yep, the capital.
It's almost, and I'm sure you can agree, and I never get political at all, but it's almost like they thrive for chaos so that they can continue the power. It's like they want the little people fighting each other at the bottom to take the focus off of them.
Wow.
And so that they can do, yeah, that's what I've seen. Just so, because it only makes sense that the policies that they've changed, implemented, I don't know how the feds work or the East Coast, but over here we have protective custody and general population. Protective custody would be your bad rape charges, your sex crimes, child molestation. A GP would be your clean paperwork, robbery, murder, attempted murder, stuff like that. Well, they mixed them. They mixed them a couple of years back here. And it was what you would expect it to be, like a massacre,
Did they let you have your paperwork on the yard in California?
Yes, I mean we're not going to take it away from them, but they got it. They're always going to have some type of documentation, like a court case or legal work, old disciplinary write-up. So they're going to check it immediately.
Yeah, because what I did myself, Hector, what they would do is that in the feds, and Max, I love people say, "Oh, I'd rather go to the Fed state." No, you wouldn't. And I've been in both, and because once you get up to a certain level in the Fed, they don't give a flying fuck how much money you have. You know, your buddy's not going to be there. They're going to take you on a plane. I've been on diesel therapy. I went on to Con Air 16 times,
Wow.
flying around the country. I got a lot of fucking frequent flyer miles on that plane, and
Wow, that's intense.
it's crazy. You know, the air marshals don't play. But what happens is they won't let you take your paperwork of what happened with you and your case and stuff. Now you have to have legal work if you have a case pending, obviously. But I used to do the law work, so I would pull people's paper. I could pull their docket sheet and find out what they did if they got what they call a 5K1, which is a downward departure due to ratting, or if they were a fucking child molester. And they even had codes in the feds that if you had a crime that I'm gonna have to look it up again, the exact number of the USC code, and it means you had sex with somebody under 12. If you did that, you were fucking done, obviously. And I used to pull the paperwork, and believe it or not, I know this sounds bad. I have no fucking bad feelings for that. Because listen, if you're that fucking sick to fucking have sex with a fucking kid, I want to fucking just because I was abused as a kid, and I looked at that as something that it reviled me, and I seen some shit that I know you understand it, thrown off tears and fucking butchered and stuff of that nature, but they don't. What they do is they have what we used to call it a cheese factory. That's for the fucking rats, the big fucking rats go. You like that cheese factory, and then of course the pedos and stuff like that, they would come, and once they're found out, they're done. First of all, if he's your celly and you didn't know, that's one thing. But then when we know that celly had to hit him, so because I my own brother, and you'll hear him on podcasts too with me. He did 10 years as well, and he had a pedophile in his thing, and he told the council, "Let's get this motherfucker, get him away from me." Guy goes, "Well, no, you don't tell us who goes in your cell." He said, "Okay." He fucking beat the fucking guy after death with a lock, and
Yeah.
of course he's transferred back up to a higher prison. But he said, "I don't give a fuck." He goes, "These lower prisons or something, they're all a bunch of punks and rats and fucking chomos and stuff of that nature." So I always wondered how guards. Listen, I dealt with a lot of guards, and again, our guards were guards that were. I consider them us. They just had a job. They did time, but they did it in 8-hour increments or whatever it is. But they were cool. They never disrespected you. We'd blow a fucking fuse because we're using stingers, and they'd fucking go hit the
Yeah.
breaker for us and shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They were good dudes. They weren't assholes. They realized what we were going through, and I always wondered what a mindset of you. Now California, I don't know. I was a East Coast guy, all the way up and down the East Coast, and as far west as Oklahoma, which is the Federal Transportation Center for the Bureau of Prisons for the whole country. And believe it or not, they have a prison at the airport, Hector. Literally a fucking
Wow.
16 stories or some shit at the prison. Plane pulls up like you're at fucking a major airport, comes out with the thing, and you walk off the plane into the prison. So it's fucking.
What prison is that? What airport is that?
That is in Oklahoma City, and it's called FTC, Federal Transportation Center, Oklahoma. And talk about fucking. They had an Indian, a big Indian guard. I don't know if he was a lieutenant. First, I remember when he was a guard. He's probably retired now. This motherfucker was huge, man. I seen him take a fucking guy out of line and fuck him up right there, right in front of the whole fucking 100-something that got off that plane. Fuck him up. The guy was in cuffs too. They don't give a fuck. So it is what it is. I look at the prison system. I always believed it should be rehabilitation, but obviously, I don't think a lot of people do. And I don't think it's because they don't want. I think most people go into that profession thinking, maybe I can do some good. I know. Listen, you were a fuck up yourself, so you got to go in there saying, "Man, these guys are no different than me. They got caught in some ways." I used to have guards tell me, and now, that I do what I do and I travel and I speak all over the country. I mean, I have fucking guys, chiefs of police I'll hang with and fucking will smoke cigars and they'll say, hey, man, Larry, I could have been where you were. I just didn't get caught, or something of that nature. And at least they're honest with that, Hector. And I believe in that. At least they're saying them, what the fuck? I mean, and it gets to them. It really, some people, when you realize there's people in there that maybe are innocent, not many, but at least there's some that don't belong, having to happen to them. And then they say there's psychology services. That's all fucking bullshit. Like the pre-release program in the Federal Bureau of Prisons is the biggest fucking joke on this side of the planet. I don't know how much money it generates or gets, or they can say they're doing something for the public. They do fucking nothing. It's a mindset getting out of prison. It's not about fucking get me a job and get. Most people who go to prison were hustlers. They can figure shit out, but their mind is fucked up. They just lived in a place. That's called, give you a little thing what it's called. They call it, when you're institutionalized, here's what happens. You fucking are given, like a person who does time in prison, you make approximately 100 choices a day, Hector. Now, the regular person on the street, you and me today, we make about 1,500 choices a day. I mean, what you're going to get, you're going to get up, what you're going to wear, how many cups of coffee you're going to have, wait. In prison, you don't do any of that shit. You know what you're going to eat that day. You know where you're going to be that day. There's no choice making. Now you take a dude and put him out in the street, which they did to me, and you have what they call sensory overload. You're fucking here to make choices, and you never made choices in the last decade. So what the fuck you expect them to do? Oh, I need help? I couldn't wash my hands. I didn't have to fucking turn on water because it had that automatic shit that come out of the bottom of the fucking thing.
Yeah.
And so you start freaking out, and until you start getting back into where you can learn and not feel like you're an idiot, because everything is, you can't be weak in prison, as a person. You can't be weak. The weak fucking get eaten up. I talk to people, I say, listen, there's two types of people in prison. There's predators and prey. I was a predator. That doesn't mean I preyed on people. It means my mentality, my demeanor, my how I handle myself. I was a predator. Now, again, I didn't prey on people. I could help people, but and those predators will fuck with a prey real easy when they wanna, And it's sad, and I'm sure you saw it every day, as a lieutenant, especially, and or as a guard on a unit, wherever you were. What prisons were you in?
I was at Centinela State Prison. It's on the border of Mexico, the southernmost part of California, and then Donovan State Prison, RJD, which is in San Diego, California.
Oh, so you were south. You were down the south end of California.
Down south, yeah. So Southern Hispanics, Bloods, Crips, Asians, others.
Sure. Border like Brothers, NMA, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. I know. Yo estoy aprendiendo español todo el día. 11 años prisión. Habla, habla, habla.
Yeah.
¿Entiendes más? But I look at that, and I had a lot of different cellies, obviously. And actually, some of the certain gang members, they get older and they realize how fucked up that is too, But we used to talk about it. I was with the mob, so it was a little bit different. But it's kind of a gang. You could call it what it is. I don't know how the mob is in California, if they even have, that kind of stuff out there.
They got over here. You got four major ones. You got the Mexican Mafia for the Southern Hispanics. You got the Nuestra Familia for the Northern Hispanics. Yeah. You got the Black Guerrilla family for the blacks, and then
you have Aryan Brotherhood.
Aryan Brotherhood for the white.
Yeah, those guys. I've been in a lot of prisons, and I will tell you what, those fucking guys are the craziest motherfuckers on the planet. I mean, MA too, but those Aryan brothers, they're all murder in, murder out. I'm not talking Texas AB, they call them TABs, but the Aryan Brotherhood, those guys fucking. I knew a few of them, and in fact, they wouldn't even let four of them on the yard. Most of them are on lockdown. And I'm sure, I know where Pelican Bay in California is locked down, I think, if I'm not correct about that.
Yeah, well, that's another major change that they made in the year 2015. It was a result of lawsuits. They released all those guys from Pelican Bay, all of them, all the gang leadership, released them all.
Wow. And they just put them all around? They put them all around?
All around the state of California. mixed, and they had not been in those prisons for like 20, 30 years.
Wow.
Some of those prisons weren't even built when they got put away in the SHU, Security Housing Unit.
Yeah, so we call it special housing unit. Yeah, SHU, hole,
that
box, whatever the fuck you want to call it.
So before, the way they were communicating with the rest of the inmate population, they're sending orders and doing this and that. And they would use mail, old school written mail, letters. Now you got dudes with cell phones on the yard doing conference calls with each other throughout the state. And if they want somebody gone, instantly gone.
Hector, when did you get out of being in corrections?
Just December 1st, so like 3 months ago, December 1st, 2022.
Oh, wow, this is good. I'd love that. We're going to have you a lot because I think I'm going to do a video or two if you don't mind. And we'll do something where, because I got out in 2007. So that's 15 years ago. So when I went in fact, the United States Bureau of Prisons didn't have as many penitentiaries and all, like where Whitey Bulger was killed. I know the guys that did that, and it was in Hazleton. It was a killing field, too, so... they set him up. There's no question in my mind that the Bureau of Prisons set that fuck, which I don't give a fuck personally. I know it sounds pretty cruel, but looking back, I look at that and say, fuck, he killed so many people, didn't get held accountable, and he was a scumbag as well to people. But besides that, you know what the prison. When did you start being in corrections?
Came in 2006. When I hit the prison was 2007.
Wow, that's when I got out. That's perfect. That's perfect. I'll tell you about the old times. You tell me about the new times.
You don't want to hear about the new times, man. It's wild, change.
I often wondered what would happen, like myself, knowing the system the way I knew it. And I still have a lot of friends inside, obviously, that were lifers and stuff. And I stay in contact with them. Like, they have email now. You have to pay 5 cents or whatever it is. Some email. Fucking... When I got out, fucking cell phones weren't even allowed in the fucking halfway houses. So, think about that. And now look at it. It's fucking, I hear all about cell phones. When I was in Hector, a cell phone was an escape charge. If you had a cell phone, you got an escape charge. And you were carrying 5 years for that. I heard that's not even the case anymore. It's just it's a shot. We call them a shot, infraction, whatever they call them in the state. And it's a... But obviously it's going to get you in the hole or whatever. I don't know. Does it even? Because I heard they're not using the hole. I was in the hole for 3 years, Hector. And I'll tell you what, you start going crazy. Don't anybody kid you, man. That's just, it's not fucking normal to put a human being who are communication people. We are people who live, and you die, you breathe for communications and social interaction. And you take that away, and before you know it, you're fucking really going crazy. Especially, I tell people this, Hector, and you'll understand this probably. I said, listen, you know what the worst part of the hole was? When they throw you in the hole for an investigation. Because there's no date. You don't know when the fuck you're getting out. If you're getting out. If you're getting transferred or whatever the fuck you're doing. And putting on a plane. I've been put on a plane and sent back to the same prison just to be fucked with. Talk about a waste of money by the fucking government. Yeah. But... And I often wondered, does California do the same thing?
They do the same thing. The first prison I worked at, when you went into the hole to ask for an investigation, it was a legitimate investigation. The staff members from the investigative staff to the counselors that do the classification paperwork, they were all on point. They all knew what they were doing. They were competent. Right? I go to another prison. You got very inexperienced staff members, plus the stress of the administration, plus the chaos of the inmates is just running amok. That inmates were getting left in the hole for months, with the investigation not even started. Like, just forgot about the guys. So that becomes a problem with me and my staff if I'm working at the hole that day, because I got inmates boarding up their cell windows so we can't see in, starting fires in their cell, gassing staff members, with feces and urine. And when we asked what's going on, why are you doing this? Hey, man, I've been back here for like 11 months. Ain't nobody came and talked to me. And hold on, man. I go, look, sure enough. So it was just very horrible spot to be in.
Yeah, you know what? Oh, you see, you just reminded me so much when you said gas, and we did a gassing at Lewisburg Penitentiary, man. We hit the fucking warden and his whole fucking. We used to call it the dog and pony show. They'd come around every fucking
Right.
Friday, and oh, how you doing? I said, get the fuck out of here. How am I doing? You fucking jerk off. I'm fucking in the hole. The fuck, get away from my fucking door. And Lawton come down here. Fuck you. What are you gonna do to me now? What the fucking me? I don't give a fuck. You're the warden. And they would just leave you there. And it was like, motherfucker. I mean, you start going crazy. You start thinking of crazy shit. I had a very close friend of mine hang himself. Tell me, hey, Larry, he goes, hey, brother, I love you. Black guy was a nice guy, too, man. Used to work out together through the events, doing burpees and doing we used to do certain routines, with the gang routines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I used to say, he said, man, I love you, brother. I'm checking out. What the? It dawned on me he was going to check it, kill himself. I jumped up in the vent and I said, man, Jack, lay down, man. I'll talk to you after count. Sure enough, he hung himself, man. He killed himself right there. And it fucking blew me away, man. And to this day, I think about that, who pushes somebody to do that? Now, that guy wasn't even a murderer. He was a drug dealer. And he was a big drug dealer, but they're getting life sentences. They were giving crazy sentences for shit that these fucking people do anyway, whether it's Iran-Contra and the government, and I can go on and on. And I hate to get bitter, because I don't. I try to look for the positive in things, Hector, but it's so hard when you know what you just said. It's not coming from the poor guy that's just trying to do his job. Because there were some guards that saved my life, talked to me at the right time, treated me like a human being, and believe it or not, I remember them to this day. And then I was also, I don't know if you read I'm going to send you my book and cigars, so you got to remember that.
Awesome.
And
appreciate that.
I was strapped down naked, beaten, and tortured by guards because I was writing senators and congressmen. I ended up knowing how to get under the warden's skin. And the warden had meetings. Now, I find out this later from guys, guards and people who know me, man. There was an Oceans guy named Butch. He said, Lawton, man, they're talking about you by name in the warden's office. So you must be fucking really hitting the button. Because they don't normally give a fuck about one or two inmates, And sure enough, fucking, boy, what they did to you, man. I wonder how they go home, Hector, and go to sleep. And it's got to be tough.
I don't know, man. I can't, I agree with you 100%. I got under my warden's skin as well, man. I got right now. I'm under the whole department's skin right now. Coming out on YouTube and just sharing the truth.
Well, good for you, man. Well, I'm gonna help you. We're gonna fucking get it out there. I don't give a fuck.
Let's do it, man. I'm all about it. I sacrificed my career to do this. That's how much it didn't sit well. It was disgusting, honestly. But yeah, I treated the inmates. Man, I had a couple guys on my channel. One dude that was on my yard, an inmate. He's like, "Hey, you were always fair. You were always respectful." And that's just the way I carried myself in that manner. Going back to that topic we were talking about, the child molesters and the ones with dirty paperwork. I did not talk to them. I didn't talk to them unless it was like business. But I never chopped it up with them. I never absolutely never joked with them. It just, that was a line. I mean, we're human too, the guards still.
Absolutely. That's why I know, I never, and to this day, first of all, I don't judge anybody. I come from New York City, a big city. We didn't give a fuck. There was no prejudice where I come from. I don't give a fuck if you were a Martian. If you lived in my area and my block, you were good. Yeah. We didn't give a fuck. So that's just how we ran. But, I always said, I don't ever, that's why it's hard for me to say, oh, all guards suck, because they don't. And there were guards and there's administration that were pretty good. And I respect them. The last lieutenant I ran into, and I forget her name. She was a female. And I to this day, if I ever saw her, I'd probably recognize her. And when she took me out of the hole, I was in the hole, in the shoe. And so she takes me out of the shoe. I'm in there forever already. And that's when she talks to me. And she treats me. She goes, listen, Lawton, she goes, you're at a new place. Now, she knew I wasn't quitting, whether it's fucking senators or this. She knew this guy's not fucking quitting. I mean, already they tried everything. And she said, listen, anybody treats you fucking the wrong way, she goes, I know you ain't a snitch, but you just see me and you tell them, listen, go see fucking, I forget her name, man. She was a lady. And, she stuck by her word. And they didn't fuck me. I had about 8 months left or something like that. And I said, man, I'll do my time. I'll be quiet. Just leave these don't let these fucking guys, because if they come up to me, because I didn't find this out, Hector, until out of prison. Massey, a good friend of mine, again, he was in the BOP a long time. He was the union president, and he said to me, he goes, when you assaulted a staff, I had a fucking unit manager who was you want to talk about trying to fucking get under your skin? Well, she did. And she fucking telling me, oh, your cellie could rat if he wanted. He could have told. I said, he's not going to rat. He wouldn't be my fucking cellie. I said, it's my shit. It's my shit. Put me in the box. No, he had the opportunity. I said, listen to me. You're trying to make the fucking kid rat. What? She knew she was getting on it. I fucking went off. I ripped off her phone off a wall, threw a fucking paper shredder at her, fucking ripped shit up, caused a lot of money and damage. They charged me for it, of course. Well, I'll come out of the unit, fucking ripping my shirt off, wanting to fight everybody. Now, this prison was a good prison. I was in Georgia. And the guy Massey remembers the incident to this day. We talked about it on my show. And he says, we hated that bitch. I didn't even come running when the deuces, the alarms on the radios or whatever the fucking thing. I was telling people how that works. They could take their phone off the hook in the office, and if it's off the hook without something, it sets the alarms off. They have all this shit. And I said to him, he goes, yeah, that bitch. He goes, I tried to call. His brother was at the next penitentiary I was going to call Edgefield. And he called his brother, and he says, hey, listen, he goes, man, this guy's a good dude. This guy's straight up. He won't, this guy's a convict. You know the difference between a convict and an inmate, of course. So
absolutely.
And he goes, this guy's a convict. And Massey told me this after I got out, obviously. And it's a funny case how we met. But he said, I told my brother, man, look out for me. He goes, man, this guy can't. He goes, it's in his jacket now. And I guess they put in your jacket that you assaulted staff of some sort. And that doesn't sit well with the next ones coming and next one. They even transferred a fucking dude who was a unit manager. They made him SIS. In the feds, they call SIS is the investigative, like, the fucking, I guess, the cops of the prison, And so they made the SIS a lieutenant, and they made him the SIS of a prison I went to. He gets on the yard, I'm in the hole within fucking a week. Fucking investigation again. Like, get the fuck out. I mean, you won't leave the fucking dude alone, But they don't, and that's just part of it. You know how I met the guard? Did you like this? I did a video on how to cook pasta with, with a stinger and all that shit and all we used to make in prison. And his daughter watched YouTube and said, hey, Dad, there's a guy that makes that pasta like you make. Over, not with a stinger, but aglio olio with pasta. And he looked at it, he goes, that's the dude that taught me how to do it. That's what he told her. He goes,
oh, wow.
and he don't know shit. He don't know how to fucking get on YouTube or anything. And he goes, oh, can you contact him somehow? She ended up contacting my son who runs my social media. And he said, my son said, hey, Dad, there's a guard that wants to talk to you. His name is Massey. Fucking, I remember the last name. He go, what the fuck? Are you serious? He goes, yeah. He goes, some daughter said about the pasta. And I end up fucking, he's in Georgia, not far from me. So I end up going to see him, and we talked. He came on my show. Now we talk regularly. He's a good dude. He's a fucking stand. We used to give him pasta, and he used to go like trip the breakers when we fucked him up, and he'd fucking when the fucking was some bullshit shakedown crap. He'd say, listen, guys, it's gonna be a shakedown later, and he wouldn't say he would cover for you. You know what I mean? He was a good dude. He knew we weren't fucking trying to whack people with fucking shit, but he would look out for us. Throwing Super Bowl parties and shit. And he was just a good dude. And I look back at that and I say, that's why I can never look at a guard or anybody and say, oh, he's a scumbag just because he's a guard. It's not true. It's not true. And I try to explain that to everybody on my channel. You don't do that. You treat people with respect, and they'll treat you with respect. The ones that don't, I have no fucking qualms of fucking seeing what happens to them. Because I used to say, you're a badass motherfucker with your keys and your fucking handcuffs, and I can't walk out of this cell without fucking being handcuffed with 2 fucking guards. So why don't you fucking just somehow fucking get in this fucking cell? If you beat me, fair fucking deal. But they fucking, you know how it works. I'm not going to say, I'm saying they can't. I'm saying that, it was a little different wild life back then. And in our time, this is before, like you said, you started when I got out. That's pretty wild. And when I went in 96, it was pretty fucking, off the chains. but it was a respect thing. Even the inmates, we stuck together, if you know what I mean, in those penitentiaries. It was us against them, so to speak. And that didn't mean we're gonna fuck you up or something like that. But we're trying to live our lives, and we had 880 lifers in a prison I was at, out of
Man,
2,000. What the fuck you think is gonna happen?
right.
What are you gonna do to them? Send them to the next fucking prison, of course, or ADX, which was locked down. Back then it was Marion, and then ADX Colorado opened up, and that's a fucking, you're underground, you're fucked. It's over. It's like you're fucking
Man.
off the planet. But
Yeah, no,
go ahead, Hector. I'm sorry.
yeah, that's another reason why, I resigned and want to share, the message is like, I believe everybody was under the assumption that everybody that's like either law enforcement or correctional staff is all like, bad people or, squares. 'Cause I'm definitely not a square, but, that type of way, power hungry people. But nah, we're normal people too, man. We're average individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I got to.
go ahead. I'm sorry. I was going to ask you
I
about
was saying,
training. I was going to ask you about training.
well, I was just gonna say I got a 4-year-old daughter now, and I didn't have any kids before, so she was a big turning point, pivotal moment of like, man, this something has to give. This job ain't cutting it. The money was great, but my mental health was just going down the drain. Like, nah.
Hey, I applaud you for it because it's not easy. But a lot of guys tell me the same thing who are ex-guards and stuff. They come to that point, something happened. They saw somebody get killed that didn't deserve. They saw what you said. Administration don't give a fuck about. And what I'm hearing mostly from like you guys, I call it the rank and file, or the guys in the street guys, I call them, is they find that the administration don't give a shit about them as much as they don't give a shit about the fucking inmates. So it's not
Worse.
like, yeah, is that crazy?
Worse. No, it was disgusting. I mean, they were, dude, like in California, the inmate population wear blue uniforms, blue clothing. We wear green uniforms. When I came in 2007, the mindset and mentality was blue versus green, just how you stated a couple minutes ago. And that was fine. It was, dangerous and violent,
But it was a cat and mouse game. I get it. We got that. Exactly.
Yeah, nobody was doing you dirty. I mean, even if they beat your ass, like I'm saying, if the inmates beat our asses or stabbed us, it's not necessarily a dirty move. It's, hey, we got hit, The administration doesn't play by the rules. They're grimy. They are unethical. They preach ethics and transparency, and they are every bit opposite that you could ever imagine. And it's,
Hey, Hector, question: did you ever try to go to system like I-4? See, I ended up learning early that not early. I took me years that I couldn't beat them physically. So I started the media. I wrote articles. I ended up getting smart. I got my law degree. I did a lot of things that really kind of got under their skin, if you want to know. And then when I had some congressmen and heavy hitters, then they get a little worried because now it's their job. Now fucking you got a senator saying, what the fuck's going on? Now that worked in the feds. I don't know how it works in the state. And did you ever try to like go that route, at least a different route, like knowing the system? You're an inside guy, I call it. Somebody, I don't mean ratting. I meant tell it like it is. Like, hey, how can you say this is right? How? You get, like I found out that wardens get bonuses for saving money, taking food away, taking overtime against guards. That's what I found out. Doesn't want the right amount of guards, so it's this unsafe situation for everybody. And they just do it because they don't give a fuck and they want that money. So what have you ever tried besides, obviously you're doing it now, but you had to give up a lot, man, your pension and everything, right?
yeah. So in the year 2019 and the year 2020, we got this warden there. This warden was equivalent to Hitler, man. I swear to God, equivalent to a dictator.
Yeah, wow.
So, and he was getting back from the top, from the higher above him. They take care of each other up there at the top. And which is what they accuse us of doing at the bottom, saying that we're covering stuff up, but that's not necessarily the case. It's happening at the top. So this guy makes me his right hand man. Wow, lucky me. He makes me his right hand man. He put me in charge of our SWAT team. I became the commander for a
We used
crisis
to call them
response
short
team.
team.
So yeah, that team. Ours is CRT, crisis response team. I became the commander, his public information officer, and mind you, all my friends and buddies and peers are all at the bottom getting tore up and chewed up and spit out. I didn't appreciate that. I don't stand for people who bully others at all. And
I don't either. Yeah.
at at that level, everybody, trust me, man. Believe me when I say that they were calling the whistleblower hotline. They were calling some federal agencies. They were crying out for help. They were calling EEO, Equal Opportunity Claims, Office of Internal Affairs Claims, Department of Fair and Employee Housing. They filed one associate warden, retired sooner rather than he wanted to, and wrote an email statewide saying exactly what was transpiring. Well, of course, the powers above, no later than 5 minutes, rebutted that email saying, nah, not true. We fully support that warden and everything he's doing. They kind of wrote that associate warden off as if he was a disgruntled employee. They were.
Now, hasn't California been under a federal watch? I thought they were at one point under a federal judge's order to do certain things.
Man, they're under a couple federal things, but you're talking about the federal receivership where they sued about the healthcare. The healthcare, there's a lot of federal lawsuits against the department. Even the one releasing those inmates, the heavy leadership from the shoes, that is part of another lawsuit. Asker versus, whoever the governor was at the time, Newsom. And
it wasn't Newsom at the time. I think it was, I don't know if it was Brown or, it wasn't Gavin Newsom. He just became governor not long ago, maybe 2-3 years ago. If I'm
whoever it was, and then it just carries over. But you're asking me if I ever fought them in a litigation battle. For two reasons, no, because one, I was watching what was happening to my peers that were filing those complaints. They were retaliating against them for doing that, which in itself is another illegal act. That shouldn't be happening. Hostile work environment, stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, I'm not going to do that. It's that you're not getting results that way. You're getting more. But I documented everything. For 2 years, I had a folder. I had the warden's name on there, and I put, like, in case of an emergency, everything that had transpired, I put in that manila envelope, emails, documents, memorandums, and I'm not the political guy. I don't know that world. I've never been the type to, like, research litigation or where to even begin. And what I saw, the answer was like, hey, these people don't like to be ousted. They don't like their dirt out in the open. So it dawned on me, get out of there. Get out of there so they can't retaliate against you. And that's when I started the YouTube channel.
Well, did you start the YouTube channel before you got out?
I did, but mostly what I was talking about was my military experiences and combat stories. It wasn't until I dropped a video on the Fresno Bulldogs, the gang Fresno Bulldogs, they started again. The administration started integrating them because that gang faction cannot get along with anybody else. Anybody else will on site, green light. They're going to take off on them because of how they just established themselves of being like lone riders, right? Lone wolves. Well, man, I don't think it's cool when you're putting 5 Fresno Bulldogs on a yard full of Southern Hispanics and whites, like 200. So if you have 200 individuals fighting 5 inmates, wow, that's not cool, man. That's not, you know what I mean? I'm all about violence when violence needs to happen, or a fair violence, if there is such a thing. But putting 5 dudes against 200 guys is just, like, not cool.
It's a slaughter. You're sending them a slaughter. It's pretty much, I mean, it might as well just say, I don't give a fuck about them if they get killed, because that's what happens, I'm sure.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does happen. They get so close to getting, almost getting killed, real close. And you know how close people can get. And I made that video and my stance on how I felt about that, and it just blew up. It blew up. And then that's when I was like, okay, I got something going here. That's when I started airing out the dirty laundry more and more and more. People were just getting hooked on that.
Well, it's you know what? You're from the inside. It's like myself when I tell. Listen, I said, listen. There's no reason for me to fucking not tell the truth. What do I give a fuck? I
Right.
mean,
Right.
first of all, I'm old, and I don't give a fuck. And I look at it like, listen, if we can maybe make a difference somewhere, I understand totally what you're talking about, your mental health, because I'll tell you what, you will either they'll kill you, and I mean that either literally or figuratively, or you'll fucking stress yourself to death, and you got a young baby, and what are you doing this for? A paycheck?
Correct.
There's ways to make money, obviously. You seem like a smart guy. You rose in ranks. You're military. You're young enough still at this point. Listen, I tell people this all the time, Hector. I got out of prison at 46 years old, and penniless. They took every dime from me, of course, and I never bitch about that because listen, I was a criminal. So listen, taking it from me is one thing. Now, getting out, you can, and at 46, you can fucking start your life over. You can make a difference. You can build up a audience and people who understand. Just be straight up, and that's what I see with you. You're just telling it like it is. You're not trying to fucking get anybody, but along the way, if it hurts them, they were fucking wrong to begin with, so they deserve that. And I hope I look at guys like yourself, and I love channels that are telling it like you're not trying to go against inmates or guards. You're not doing anything. You're just telling the truth how it goes. Listen, again, I said it earlier. Listen, I know out of 800 and fucking 80, I'll give you a number, 880 lifers. We had 200 that fight their case legally. They're in the law library every day. They're fucking trying to get out, appeals, this stuff, figuring out law, trying to lobby your friends, whatever they're going to do. Then you get 400 and something that just fall into fucking living in prison. They get a wife, you know what I mean? They get a punk and they fucking live their life, whatever the fuck they can. I've seen them I've been in weddings in fucking prison where they fucking, they fucking color their fucking panties with fucking Kool-Aid and they
Oh yeah.
tattoo their eyebrows and fucking tattoo their lip.
Yeah.
You know that. I don't have to tell you that. And then there's 200, Hector, that are fucking psychopaths. Literally psychopaths. That I wouldn't want them out here because they'd kill the neighbor, they'd kill fucking everyone. They're just psycho. They really belong in a mental place somehow. They don't belong in a regular prison because most of our prisons are mental places as it is. So that's the difference I find with the system. And I'm sure I don't even understand how you guys in your prisons. See, when I was in prisons in the max, you didn't see guys with 2 years unless they fucked up. The system fucked up. They misclassified them, and I've seen that. And then they get killed. People are jealous or something happened. They owe somebody a fucking book of stamps, which is $5 back when I was in. And fucking, first it was cigarettes, then they took cigarettes off. You want to talk a killing field? You were in after that. In the feds, they took cigarettes off the yards. Holy shit, that was worse than taking dope off the yards, So,
Man.
and so those kind of guys, but you've seen guys with 10, 12, 15, 20, 30, 50, 100 years. You didn't see guys with 2 years for, a fucking B&E or some bullshit. I don't know how the state of California can put a dude who's got fucking 2 years with a dude who's got fucking multiple life sentences. And that just blows me away. Because
yeah, that's normal. That's not even abnormal. That's definitely normal.
And that's crazy. Because if you're trying to rehabilitate someone, who the fuck you think this guy's learning from? Who do you think a 21-year-old kid coming to prison and he's fucking in there and he wants to survive and he's looking at one of these OGs here and he's fucking, what is he doing? He's fucking emulate. He knows how to rob. He knows how to kill. He knows how to do everything. Now you send him back on the street. What the fuck you think is going to happen? You're going to have a high recidivism rate. And they do. California is one of the highest recidivism rates in the country. So, they're not doing something right there. But
yeah, I mean, you can have dudes in there for, like I said, maybe 3 DUIs. 3 DUIs will probably land you in prison here in California. And then the next guy over, one of my clerks, the program clerk, he's a nice guy, but he just happened to beat his dad to death with a baseball bat, And then I kind of I read his file, he was working in the program, so I'm like, let me see what this dude is about. But there was some allegations of sexual like stuff like that. So I'm like, well, maybe if that did happen, then maybe that was the reason he did that, But I never,
right. Yeah.
I surely never asked the guy about it. But that just goes to show you the severity of the differences. It didn't matter.
And did you see like obviously prisons click up, always. Was it just gangs versus was most people in the California system in gangs?
Yes, 100%. Well, you're pretty much not. Yeah, I don't think you can survive not being in a gang.
Right. Yeah.
There's really nobody not in a gang. Um, those are very, very, very few, and maybe you'll have like some Christians, right? Like some Mexican Christians that'll just play their little guitar on the yard, and they kind of, I don't know, they're not necessarily hiding under that guy, but it's going to be really hard for you to try to get, if you're young, try to go to prison and say that you're a Christian. It's not going to fly.
It's funny because what happened in the state system is the Mexicans, the non-gang, if non-border brothers, not MA or not Puerto Rican Nietas or G27s or Latin Kings or something. Well, if they're not one of those, they would call them bices. And I don't know if they do that in California system too. And so a Mexican kid coming into prison now, he's not affiliated with Border Brothers, MA, or something of that nature. Like Sureños, Norteños, or whatever in that aspect.
Yeah.
They would be considered in the bices. And those guys fucking got strong because there were so many of them. They became a pretty strong gang in prison. So do they have them in the state system?
No, but an interesting fact in California and the state prison system is that if you're a Southern Hispanic gang member out on the streets, let's say Los Angeles, and they probably got thousands of street gangs in Los Angeles, Mexican street gangs, Sureños. You're, 18th Street, MS-13,
sure.
Hawaiian Gardens. If you can be rivals, you can be harpies, you can be rivals on the streets. The most enemy rivals you could ever imagine, killing each other on a weekend basis, killing each other's family members. When you touch down in the prison system, that's it. You guys are now allies instantly. You guys, there's all beef ends when you hit the prison system. And it falls under that umbrella, the umbrella of the Mexican mafia.
Yeah, oh yeah, because the Sureños are the fucking. We used to call them the fucking the minor leagues trying to get up to the big boys, and like the recruiting arm, just like the dirty white boys are trying to become Aryan Brotherhoods. They're trying to emulate something, or the Aryan Circle, Aryan Nation, all these fucking wacko gangs that are trying to get higher up in the system, because that's their life. That's literally their life, and you take a young kid who comes from the streets, and I mean, I've seen some butcherings when they put a Norteño on a Sureño yard. What do you think's going to happen?
Wow.
It's not,
yeah.
It doesn't last minutes. I mean, you see the guy
Correct.
walk out of fucking R&D, and gets assigned a unit, and he's not going to say anything. He's not allowed. He can't say,
Correct.
I'm a Norteño. You can't put me on this yard. He just goes
Correct.
on that yard, and you'll see they'll swarm him like a fucking bees, and fucking stab him up right there. Boom, done. And fucking, the alarms go off, fucking lock down, until they try to fucking quiet the shit down. But and you don't think there's mess ups there? Some of them I think is almost on purpose, and I do believe that. I think the system either has to be run better, because I can't believe all of these are just mistakes. Just incompetence. If it is incompetence, Hector, they're the most fucked up individuals and most incompetent people I've ever met, because that's not too hard to figure out. Guy comes in with all fucking tattoos as a Norteño, and you don't know this shit, and you're putting them on a yard that's got the fucking head of Sureños or whatever. Are you kidding me? But they don't care. They just bet I'm going to yard. And
no, they don't care. And I mentioned putting those Bulldogs, Fresno Bulldogs, on the main line with the Southerners, the whites, and the blacks, and they know it became policy. The higher ups in the administration actually made it policy. So us at the bottom, thank God I got out of there before that mess. But we're just following policy. Everybody knows what is going to happen. Even like you said, those inmates that are going to get attacked, they know in their heart, in their mind, that they're going to get attacked, but they don't say nothing because they ride it out. Like a gangster, they ride it out to the very end.
Absolutely. And it's a shame because you see somebody, and I just take these young people And I'm a believer in second chance. I always was, and I always will be, because I see that people can change. You look at me. When you read my book, I was a bad kid. I grew up in the streets, and but people change. You grow up, you start, listening to older cats. You change anyway. The older you get, you change. I don't care what you are. You're 38. When you were 20, you were a hell of a different man than you are when you're 30. And when you hit 40, you're going to be a hell of a different man than when you were 30. And that's life. That's called experience. And I don't think that the system gives a fuck about experience. And it's a shame, because I think they just take a person and say, it's part of the system. He shouldn't have fucked up. They start justifying things, if you know what I mean. And that, to me, is the sad part of the whole thing. And I don't know how to change that.
So those disgusting individuals that we're talking about, the administrators, right? Look at me. I'm a lieutenant, and I was a lieutenant. I saw something that wasn't right. I resigned and I spoke on it. Even while I was inside, I would document. I would send emails. Oh, and they absolutely hated me for doing that. But I don't understand how it's so easy for me to do it, to say, no, I'm not going to do that. That's unethical. That's immoral. Like, yeah, I understand you made it policy, but no, that's not cool putting those two together. They don't have that in them. It's not lack of courage. It's more of lack of more morality or ethics.
Well, it's military. It's like, obviously, as a military guy, you don't follow an unethical or an illegal order. It's not like, go put a bullet in that guy's head. You don't do that. I mean, that what's right and wrong. I mean, that's at the core.
Right.
I often talk about police, and the biggest problem with policing is, listen, there are going to be bad apples everywhere. You got all your guards in California. There's a percentage that are going to be bad. We get that.
Right.
But the problem is, the ones who know about it and keep letting it go on and don't say anything are the ones I think have to be held accountable. I don't know if you know about the case that happened not long ago in Tennessee, the 5 cops that fucking beat the living fuck out of this guy and killed him. It was on the news and everywhere. And I talked about it. I said, I get it. One guy could do it, but not one of those guys grabbed someone and said, "What are you fucking doing, kicking him in the fucking head? What's wrong with you? Where's your fucking control, or where's whatever it is?" And because they're not even thinking about their own family. They're thinking, what jaded people are they hiring that have zero fucking, like you said, either morale or even empathy or something to say, "Wait, this is not right. This is not right."
Something that you guys don't get to see, something that the public doesn't get to see is that, like, and I love sharing this on this because it's the truth. You're right. There's bad apples. There's definitely bad apples. But you better believe me as a supervisor, as a sergeant or a lieutenant, when I would catch wind of something like that, I would pull those individuals aside and I would berate them. In a private setting, right? Because good leadership, you don't do that out in public. You do it behind closed doors. I say, you think you're tough, dude? You fucking coward. You think beating inmates up in handcuffs is fucking tough? And I would just go off, right? Like, we definitely police our own. And I can tell you, if we were to observe something like that, like guys kicking dudes in the head when the guy is clearly already out, we preach this in training. Hey, grab your partner, pull them back. Because in some cases, one officer could have just got assaulted, right? Could have just got beat up. He gets up, now he's having the upper hand, but he's so stuck in the emotion, he's gonna go too far. He's gonna go overboard, right? So we have to do our due diligence and pull him back, literally physically pull him back and say, "Hey, man, stop. That's enough."
But what do you think then? What do you attribute the 5 guys doing that? You know what I mean? And that's just the policing situation. I'm sure that happens in every situation or situations. I'm trying to understand it. And as I talk on my channel about it, I says, where is either the training or the supervision or continued training? Is it just lacking? Because you don't see this in other places. You don't. And you wonder, where are we going wrong with the mentality? Is it a hiring practice, Hector? Are we just hiring people who don't belong to be fucking guards, because not everybody belongs to be a guard or a cop or anything else.
Correct.
You know,
Correct.
you have to fucking have that certain mentality. Yeah, you know, when I was a kid, Hector, and like I said, I'm older. The cops used to come by. They beat our ass. Okay, they beat our ass. You know, we didn't hate them. They did their fucking. They didn't hurt you, but they beat your ass. They took your fucking money. What, you know, like you're playing cards, doing certain shit that was really bad, and they were getting calls on or whatever it is. I remember getting stopped drinking and fucked up. Cop took me home, put me into my mother. He says, if I see him out again, I'm putting him in jail. Then I got a beating at home. But
Yeah.
you know, so at least they, you know, we respected that part of it. You know, now I don't know if they're cowards themselves, because I'm finding out cops were, when I was younger, a cop would fucking fight you. Or he'd fucking
Right.
okay, you're a smart ass. Here's my belt. It's in the car. All right, let's go. And I've seen guys fight him and beat him. These guys get their ass kicked, and you know it was over. And and it was like we had respect. Now it seems like they want to pull a gun, pull a badge, pull a baton, pull a fucking mace, do something to fucking just get the upper hand and then continue. So I'm wondering, what are we doing wrong? Is it the hiring? Is it the training? Is it the academy? Here's a sad thing that happened just not long ago, Hector. I had a young kid call me. He's in the academy. He's in the correctional academy. I forget what state. It was a state correctional. And he said, you know, Mr. Lawton, I didn't know what you were saying, but now I do. I'm in the academy, and we went to a certain level, and guys would be outside. Yeah, now we can beat their ass. You know, now we know, you know. I go, what the fuck is that mentality? If I was an instructor and I heard them saying that, I'd say, you know, you need to fucking pack your shit. But here's another problem, and I heard this from a lot of officials. We can't hire enough people. Nobody wants to be a guard or a cop. And is that just an institutional problem? Is it a pay problem? Is it you said you guys got paid pretty good in California. So, I mean, obviously you want to feed your family, you want to make money, and I get that part of it. I used to wonder, I was in the hole, Hector, and I was getting beaten every month. And I'll tell you, the scariest or the most nervous you got was not during the beating, is when you heard them coming down the tier. They didn't say lock up. You know what that means. Put your hands through the fucking chute. They didn't say that. You knew you were getting a fucking beating. It was that time that you knew you were getting a beating. That fucking, you know, now you're gearing up. And don't get me wrong, I was a crazy fuck, so I was doing everything I could to fuck with them. But I often looked at that, and I said to one guard, he used to come to me at night shift. He'd open my chute door and talk to me. I'm telling you, he saved my life. Because you're thinking of suicide, you're thinking of things, you could kill somebody and then get killed, whatever you're trying to think. And that dude, and I used to think, man, you know what the fuck's going on. You tell me you know it, and you do nothing. It took me many years, Hector, even since I got out, to actually think, oh, that guy's trying to protect his family. He's trying to feed his family, put them, you know, food on the table, a roof over their head. And if he fucking goes against these other guards in a situation where you know how bad it can get, that he's fucked, you know. So I got to understand a little bit about that, but I still think, at what point, like to me, you're a hero what you're doing, because you don't get many people like you who are willing to say, you know, this is fucked up. We need to fucking change this somehow, some way. I'm not gonna, you know, be involved in a murder. That's what can happen, and you know that.
Yeah.
So,
right.
And what do we do? What do we do? What do I get my audience to do? Who can we write? Who can we fucking form?
So with that, with all that, man, and going back to that one incident of those 5 individuals that beat that guy to death, it was a lot of things that I seen, right? The people that they hire, and it's a result of the hiring crisis, right? Nobody wants to do this job. I mean, why would I, at the age of 38, 12 years before I'm eligible to retire, at the age of lieutenant, why would I walk away? Because it's not the inmates that made it making the life difficult. It's the administration, and that's what I'm preaching here. It's a political agenda. So just to hold them accountable, right? Because I'll tell you the truth. I got a phone call last week that three of my friends got fired from the prison I worked at. And the reason that is because the current acting warden in there, who I knew and he was my sergeant, he's in an acting position. meaning he's not vetted, confirmed as a warden. So he wants to show his higher ups, look, boss, I'm on board. I'm on board with this. I'm going to fire these staff members. But that's not what they're doing is wrong. They're firing good cops because these guys were good cops. I know they were good cops, COs, prison guards.
Well, we call them cops too. I got that so much.
Yeah,
I was going to say that. Yeah.
So they're firing these cops, and like that, it makes everybody like uneasy. Me, man, a combat veteran, uneasy. Like I might not have a job tomorrow. There's a great chance I might not have a job tomorrow because of their BS, because of their frivolous made up. They'll make something up. They'll twist the policies around in their favor. So it's the short staff, right? Training. That was when I saw that video, you know, and I rarely make comments on it, but they didn't, and they had numerous times to put that individual in handcuffs. My sole thing was isolate, contain, and control. Those three things, that easy. Isolate, contain, and control. Get the individual in handcuffs as soon as possible so he can stop hurting you and stop hurting other people. So once the handcuffs came on, I can always, you know, let a little sigh of relief out, little breath. But yeah, an inmate can still be dangerous within handcuffs on, and there's other inmates in the admitted area. But I didn't see them make any attempt to put that individual in handcuffs for like however minutes that went on. Another thing I think they acted upon opportunity. You know, it was dark outside, I don't know, it seemed like a side street or residential area. They probably assumed that nobody was watching.
But they had body cameras. They had fucking body cameras. How fucking ballsy are you?
Correct. Like that is just ridiculous. I mean, like, they got caught. Like, and somebody, I don't watch the news, but somebody said in one of the comments, like, oh, I could tell this was not those guys' first rodeo. And after reading that comment, I'm like, oh, for sure, these guys have probably definitely done that previously.
Well, I say that a lot, Hector. That it's. Could you imagine when they didn't have body cameras, or they didn't have or the control or somebody? And my thought again, even with that, when we were talking about this on the show, I said, if they're doing that on the streets, or if they're doing that to you with politics, you guys, the guys who they're supposed to be in the same team, what the fuck are they doing to inmates that are in the hole, that are in, and you know what happens in the hole. They put them in the back corner when there's an inspection or some bullshit. They'll take a guy who's been a fucking headache to them. They'll put him in, they'll fucking dope him up with fucking Thorazine and stick his ass in a fucking back corner fucking cell where he sleeps the whole fucking time because they don't want him fucking flooding the cell, fucking gassing these fucking guards, doing whatever he's going to do when they come around. They don't want him banging. Because they have this thing in the feds, at least, they have it called the ACA, American Accreditation Association. What a fucking crock of shit. They fucking
Tell me about it.
Know when they're coming. They fucking put nice food. They fucking paint the fucking the walkways.
Oh.
And what is it? The minute they fucking leave, it's fucking.
Oh my God, Larry, man, ACA. When I was at Sentinel State Prison, the ACA American Accreditation, they were like, "Hey guys, everybody tidy up, start painting the walls, start cleaning the door handles, the doorknobs," and we're like, "What the hell is this shit?" And
I must be bringing back memories, Hector.
Yeah, man, I remember thinking, "What a crock of shit dog and pony show is this?" Like. Right, they took all of our TVs that, you know, we used to watch sports and stuff. It took our radios, got no more fun. And then I get over to the new prison. They hadn't implemented that there yet. And they were like, I told the officers, hey, get ready. It's coming, man. You're about to lose all your TVs. You're about to lose all your radios. Like, it's game over. And yeah, that whole BS in California was, they told us, hey, when we get sued by inmates and law firms, if we have this accreditation credential, it looks good in front of a judge. That's why they did it.
Exactly. And guys like myself who see it and been in for a while would say, I mean, how much can we take before you say, I mean, and that's just inmates. Imagine, again, if they're doing it to you, who's a staff member, who's a lieutenant, who's in. See, you went, well, I know the state, when I was in state, they call you guys white shirts, you know, I don't know how it is in California, but, you know, administrative, like the guards, you know, they're different level, unions. I don't know if lieutenants even had their own union in the feds. I'm not even sure. But the lieutenants, they'd run the shift. They'd run the whatever it is. In fact, they had a lieutenant who'd run the fucking prison on the security side. Because what people don't know is they have an administrative side and a security side in prisons. The administration represents the warden. It's usually a unit manager or a counselor or a fucking case manager, whatever the fuck that is. Then they have the guards who are under security, and in the feds, they're under the captain, who's the head of security of the prison. Of course, ultimately, everybody answers to the warden. But it's amazing if they're doing that to you guys, who is in administration, and you came somewhat high up. I mean, I don't even know your next position. What is the next position?
It would have been captain, but I didn't even bother to take the captain examination when it came out. I was just so done with that place.
Oh, you mean so? Is the captain the head of security in the prison?
It goes lieutenant, captain, associate warden, chief deputy warden, then warden.
Yeah, well, same thing. Okay, yeah. Same kind of thing. They had the warden, associate warden, and then
but
I didn't have a deputy.
But the lieutenant is pretty much, like you said, running the yard, running the facilities, the lieutenant's pretty much running it. Well, the officers in the building are running it, right? I always give credit to them. But
yes, true.
So the lieutenant's, chilling in his desk, in his office, drinking his coffee, kind of overseeing, the day-to-day operations. And then when you go captain and above, those are administrators. Those are managers. That's when they sell their soul to the devil and start doing the devil's bidding. It is crazy. It's crazy, Larry, because peers of mine that we grew up in the department together, I know what they were about. They know what I was about. Once they make captain, they lose their mind. They become a whole different person. Couldn't believe it.
Well, you just told me a guy was a sergeant and he became a warden.
See what I mean? See what I mean? And that sergeant, that when he was a sergeant, I remember that guy bursting into the door and yelling at all the inmates, "Get the F down, mother effers!" And I remember I was a brand new cop. My eyes were like shot. I was in shock. He was a big, tall, white dude, and like I was like, man, this guy's like, wow. And now he's over here. Now he's over here firing people for doing the same thing.
Yeah, like you said, I don't know the fix, and that's my goal is to try to find the fix. Obviously, your voice, my voice, other people's voices will help, because I think the more people know, the more people understand. I got a following, and people say, I didn't know it was that bad until I looked at this show, and it's, wow, you don't bullshit, Larry. You tell it like it is. And I'm known for that, even this podcast, The Real Deal, because I don't give a fuck who comes in this fucking. We all put our pants on the same way. We all jack off the same fucking way. And I'll tell you what, you want to fucking justify what you're doing, just be you. Listen, you can be you can become successful by doing the right thing too. And I don't know if the California system needs to be fucking ripped down from the top down, and it seems like it does. But there's somebody's got to be able to do that. Whether it's a governor who says, "Wait a minute, what the fuck is going on? You're killing people. You're fucking transporting people, and they're dying in fucking transports." Guys who didn't eat. I remember, there's so many policies, federal laws that I know, because I was an expert on what they call the CFR, which is the Code of Federal Regulations. So I know what comes down by Congress, how they write the policy for a department like the Bureau of Prisons, who works for the Attorney General, actually, in the federal system. I'm sure it's the same system in California. They work for the Attorney General of California, who ends up putting policies. Now, somebody along that line has got to fucking have a heart, or has to have fucking brains enough to say, what the fuck is going on? If they don't, Hector, what are we going to do?
Brain, they're missing a brain, a backbone, and and a heart. They got no spine. But hey, I think we're making progress, Larry. People like me, people like you, actors are on board saying the same thing. Advocates, family members of the inmates, former prisoners. It's like, hey man, something's got to give. So strength in numbers. I think networking. It has to work. It has to work.
I agree, Hector. That's why my goal is like to try to get you connected with some guys I know in this field, because the more people that, like you say something or get out, and numbers have to change. Numbers don't lie. Math doesn't lie. We are the most incarcerated country in the world by far. We have more people incarcerated than China or India, who have fucking 1.4 billion people. And we have more people incarcerated when we have 370 million. So something is wrong right there. And we talk about the land of the free. Oh, go suck my fucking cock. How's that, you fucking pricks? Get me upset now. But it just gets me to that point of, because I'm talking to a person who obviously, listen, you did your thing. We all have to deal with how we were as young people. Now, we made our mistakes. We made our mistakes. I'm the first to admit that. But I never made that mistake where I wanted to treat another human being. Listen, I was a robber, if you worked in my business, if you were in the gangster business, drug business, you had to run across me, you didn't want to do that. Because you're going to read about it when I send you the book. But and I'm not proud of that. It's who I was. But, I still never hurt elderly people. I never hurt kids. Listen, I couldn't go to sleep if I was doing the shit they're doing to you guys as administrators. I couldn't go to sleep. I mean, it would fucking eat me up. I'd fucking be dead. And I'm feeling better I ever did. So I think what we have to do as people, you and I, is not only keep doing it, tell the stories, bring the people on that went through it. And you know what? Bring an official on. I hope you open your show, and I'm going to open mine to some mega officials like wardens and bigger people, administrators, senators, congressmen, something of that nature to say, listen, let's get your voice out there. I want to hear you tell me in my fucking studio right here that, okay, fucking this is the right way to do it. Oh, they're bad. No, wait, they're not bad. Listen, there are bad people. Trust me, there are bad people in this world. But when you think it's only one kind of person, whether it's the inmate or the guard, there's good and bad. But why don't you weed out the fucking bad, even if it's the warden? How about the case in California? I just read about the warden and a bunch of people in a female prison. They were fucking the women. You probably read about or heard not long ago. And they ended up, they're in trouble, if I'm not correct.
Hey, Larry, that was that one. It was the male warden screwing the female inmates. And check this one out. Like 2 weeks ago, it came out that there was a male captain at San Quentin State Prison that was like raping dudes that were passed out.
Why am I not that shocked? I should be fucking flawed. I should be flawed, Hector, but I'm not. I don't know what the fuck is, somebody doesn't realize this guy's got a fucking whacked out brain along the way, and he's a fucking, at what point are we missing this? Who's missing this?
I don't know, man. We gotta make some changes, big changes.
And
man.
Hector, I'm really not a believer, and maybe I should be, but I'm not a really believer in the mega conspiracy. Like there's a pedophile ring within the government. Is there or not? I don't fucking know. But I try not to think that fucking bad. Like JFK, and it was I'm trying to say there's too many normal people like yourself that are saying, wait a minute, what the fuck? This can't be right. But then it keeps coming out. And I say to myself, am I in fucking La La Land or Disney World here in Florida? I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Okay, let me be the voice for those that can't, since you just said that. Like, I left. In order for me to speak, I had to leave. I will say about 90, okay, let's, not counting the bad apples. Let's just say 5% are bad apples. The rest are 95%. They feel the same exact way I do, we do. I keep getting DMs. I keep getting texts, phone calls saying, thank you. I'm talking about from medical staff members, correctional staff members, people from the Office of Internal Affairs, hey, I agree with what you're saying. Parole agents. So yeah, everybody's trapped in that system because you know how California, they say we have a First Amendment, but when you're in that private sector or public sector, you're going to get shit canned. Try it once. They're going to shit can you.
Yeah, we got it. If you know any of them too, let me know. Connect them with me as well. And we got to keep it going from the East Coast to the West Coast, Hector. But
that's right. That's what's up.
We're gonna do this again. I hope. Anything you want to shout out to the guys before we got to close? We've been on here an hour and a half. Can you believe that shit?
Yeah. Oh, I like it, man. No, I appreciate it. I thank you for having me on the show, man. I've been a fan of your show for years now. Years.
Thank you. And
yeah, if people want to tune into my YouTube, it is That Prison Guard, and that's where I'm airing all this truth out.
Good for you, man. And I'm gonna put it in here as well. We're gonna do a video on it too. I'd like to do that as well on my big
Yeah.
channel as well. So
Awesome.
we can try to keep going. Listen, these are the passionate things for me. I do reviews on movies and this and that
Right.
and how to shit and how to make wine and how to make shanks. I do all the crazy shit. But I
Yeah.
also always talk to young people and say, listen, make the right choice because you don't want to go in the place I was at. You just don't want to go there because there's nothing positive, and it's not like they're gonna help you or fix you. They're gonna probably fuck you up worse. So you got to
Yep.
start, doing it yourself. And I want to thank you for coming on, Hector. And don't ever, please, don't ever give up. You got to do other things. We know that. You got to expand. You got to grow your channel, and you're gonna. I remember I subscribed this morning, and I was looking, or last night I subscribed. Anyway, when Nick was, we were talking about it, and I said, Nick goes, yeah. I go, I don't give a fuck if he got 10 fucking subscribers. I want to talk to the guy.
Hell yeah, man. I appreciate
and
that.
you don't. You're growing, and you're gonna grow quick because the truth does come out, and people are looking for those kind of people who are willing to fucking put their own shit on the line. And I don't want you to be careful. I'll tell you that. Be fucking careful, Hector, because
Copy.
I have friends of mine that say, Larry, man, you fucking pushing some buttons. Well, you know what? At fucking my age, what the fuck can you do to me?
Yeah.
You're
I
a little
hear you,
younger.
man. I like it.
Your kids you got a young ones. I got grandkids, but we got to keep this fight going, Hector. So I really want to thank you again for coming on.
Thank you. Let's do it.
All right, everybody. You just heard from Hector. And listen, you got to hear from Hector and go to his thing, Hector Bravo, and check it out. It's called That Prison Guard. He's on YouTube. He puts out a lot of content. So, Hector, don't burn yourself out. We'll talk about that. I'm here. You got my cell phone. I'll send you a book, cigars. And when I'm out in California, are you in Southern California still?
Yeah, I'm in San Diego. Hit me up, man. We'll meet up for sure.
Absolutely. I've never been to San Diego. I've been to L.A. I hate that fucking place, but I've been to L.A.
No. Come this way. No traffic over here.
I hear that, and a very good friend of mine, a big producer out there, is in San Diego, and he always asks me to come out. I got to go out there and golf and kind of, then we got to get together, have lunch, and we got to figure out a good thing. But we have to keep the narrative going. And, if it changes for the good, I'd be glad to bring on the people who want to change it and then hold them accountable when they don't, which we know will happen. So,
yep.
But I want to thank you again, Hector. Have a great day. Please stay safe yourself and keep at it, buddy.
Thank you, Larry. Likewise. Thank you.
It's the greatest find yet. Nothing compares to it.
But it's definitely something you should hear.
This is The Real Deal with Larry Lawton.